Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have this fun Kraft Pink and Gold Heart Mini Slimline Shaker card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to create my Mini Slimline card to start, and I like my bases to be 6x6 and then scored at the 3-inch mark. That is my preferred Mini Slimline card size. There are a few other sizes that I'm aware of, but this is just generally the one that I prefer because I think that it aesthetically it's the easiest one for me to make, so I do have a tendency towards it. But you, of course, can make whichever size you prefer to make. This is just mine. And then I did bring in some Kraft. This is the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock, and I have my deckled edge trimmer here. And I'm going to cut this to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my base, just giving me a bit of texture to the outside of the panel. I like it to use the deckled edge trimmer. I know some people I've heard mixed comments about it. I quite enjoy mine. I think it's really just based on how often you use things that you own. I found that the more I've used it, the better it's been to use. So I just think it's one of those things that you kind of have to play with a bit. And I brought in an old stamp set. This is the Simon's Stamp Window Frames stamp set. This came out in a Simon's Stamp kit in February of 2020, I believe. So this is an old stamp set, but I was going through my stash recently and realized that I'd never used this hard one. So I thought, why not? Let's do a fun shaker card with this, because this actually also comes with a die that cuts out the center to make like a pop-up shaker card. So you guys know that I love interactive shaker cards, so I thought this would be a really fun card to play with. So here's the die. And I do have everything linked and listed down below if you're ever interested in anything that I use. And if you ever have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I do read and respond to every comment that is left for me. Sometimes it takes me a hot minute to get back to everybody, but I always respond. So if you ever want to know anything, please let me know. So I did cut that out, and it cuts out these really cool 3 panels so that you can put the little pocket, the trio shaker pocket in them. So I think that's really neat. So it kind of cuts out the center so you can do whatever you want and you don't have that blank space just kind of sitting there. And I am going to use my Prisma color pencils for this. Now, I'm going to call them pencil crayons. When I was growing up in Canada, that is what we always called them. I know that Americans, I'm pretty sure, call them colored pencils, but bear with me, it's the same thing. It's just that I know them as pencil crayons. So that is what I'm going to call them. So I do like to start with a white pencil crayon just because I find that it will make your colors more vibrant. Now, it's not as noticeable on the Kraft cardstock. It's way more noticeable, say, if you did it on a dark cardstock like a navy or a black. But I like it as a base, and I actually liked it so much with the Kraft that I end up leaving some of the hearts just white, although I had the intention of using the pink in all the hearts, but no, I changed my mind and I decided that I was going to just use white in some of the hearts and leave them that way, and then some of the other hearts I added pink on top of them. But as a general rule, when I color on colored cardstocks, I like to use them with a base of white. So for the actual colors, I'm going to use 5 different colors here, and I have pink, hot pink, blush pink, process red, and magenta. So those are the exact colors I'm using. I have the 48 set of Prisma color pencils. So if you have that set, you probably have these. The only one you might not have is I think I may have purchased hot pink separately. That's why it has a sticker on the bottom of it. But all of this will be linked and listed. If you can buy them individually, I will link them for you if you're interested in them at all. And I just kind of did a mix of them. So I used the pink, blush pink, and hot pink on this one. That's kind of the blend that I went with for this one specifically, I believe. And then on the second hearts, I'm going to use blush pink, processed red, and magenta. And that just kind of gives it a darker color. So one's more of kind of a corally pink, and the other one's a bit more of a rich, darker pink. So you kind of just have a bit more variation in the color. And then, of course, there are patches as well. So, I mean, it's not fully colored. There'll be, kind of like a gradient on one heart, and one might be a little bit more scribbly looking. Like, I just wanted some variation in the hearts so that they kind of added some interest. And that's just kind of how I chose to color them. So I did show you, I believe, 1 heart of the one blend and 2 hearts of the second blend. just so you could kind of see it in action. And I do use a pencil sharpener. I have a Prisma Coloured pencil sharpener to keep the tips very sharp. I find that just makes it a little easier for me to make sure that I can actually get the pencil crayon where I want it. I do go outside of the hearts a little bit on a couple of them. Again, I don't know that you can really tell. I don't think that it matters. Totally up to you, however. And I knew that I wanted to mat this. If you guys have been with me for a minute, you know that I love to mat everything. And I knew I wanted to mat it, but I couldn't decide if I wanted to use the cotton candy cardstock, which in the end you can see is what I did choose to use, or if I was going to bring in some gold cardstock to mat it. In the end, I chose cotton candy pink. I thought it would be a lot more pretty and add a little bit more pink in there, which I really enjoy. So this is an MFT trio pocket, and it fits perfectly in that little window frame that the die cuts out. So this gives you kind of that cool raised effect for the shaker pockets. Now, I love my flat shakers. I've made many flat shaker cards. And so that, like, those are super fun to make. But every once in a while, I want a little more dimension. So this is kind of a fun alternative. And I just really want to use the supplies that I have. So I think that, you know, I've had this stamp set now for over 2 years, and I've never used the hearts. I've used the flowers. There's a floral one in it as well, but I've never used the hearts. So I really want to just kind of go through and use older supplies that I have sitting here and give them some love. I mean, we purchased these things and they're not inexpensive, and then they sit there and we don't use them, which kind of makes me a little sad because that's their whole purpose. They're meant to, you know, be used and give some love. So I did use a very thin score tape around all of the edges. There is no adhesive on this window by itself. You do have to add it. So I used, I believe it's either a 1/16 of an inch or a 1/8 of an inch score tape. I'll have it linked down below. And I just went around all of the top of the sides there. And then I'm going to add some glitter into it. So I used some Tim Holtz Mica Flakes, some Tim Holtz Rock Candy glitter, and then a Sizzix red sequin heart here as well. And then, again, everything's linked if you want to know anything in there. And then I did cut out a piece of acetate just to go on top so that it kind of closed the frame. You could adhere this directly to the mat, the cotton candy piece, but I like to seal it so that I'm not concerned with any of the pieces parts coming out. This is just kind of my preference. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I just put a very thin line of Barely Art glue around the whole of it and then across the center, and then just laid my clear acetate down on top of it. And then I gently press to make sure that the glue doesn't kind of squeeze out. And then for my sentiment, this is from the exact same stamp set, and it is going to say, I believe, thanks for everything, something like that. I don't remember what it says. It came in this stamp set. We're going to see it here in a second when I add the embossing powder. And I'm going to use the same Gilded embossing powder I used to do the hearts so that this would look really pretty. And again, the same cotton candy cardstock to tie it all together. What does it say there? Thanks so much for everything. And I did stamp the for everything again, and just down below you can see there. And then I'm going to heat set it with my embossing tool and make sure that's all hot and melted. And I chose to cut them down into very thin strips. If you cut them down to a very thin strip, it'll actually fit between the 3 pockets. So I think that's really neat. Now, you could have, of course, stamped this. Had I thought about that before I adhered everything together, you could have done that. However, at this stage, stamping with that dimensional pocket would be a bit difficult unless you had a really thin acrylic block, which I don't have. So I didn't even try. I just heat embossed it on the same cotton candy cardstock, and then I'm just going to set it into those slots. So I do kind of have to eyeball it. Excuse me. So I do eyeball my cuts. I do this a lot. I have a tendency towards this, and the thanks so much is a little bit too thick, so I take it back to my trimmer and shave off another hair of cardstock to get it to fit. And I mean, this trimmer is amazing for that because it lets you get really thin, precise cuts. It is by far my favorite trimmer. I've actually been pondering buying the bigger one for a while, but I think it went off the market. I'm kind of wondering if Tim Holtz is going to do a redesign on it. So I am waiting to see so that I can look at purchasing it. But currently I don't have it. I just have the little guy. But I think it would be really useful for like the slimline cards because I generally have to kind of finagle them in my small one or bring out my huge 12x12 trimmer. So I kind of would prefer that size, but we'll see if he's redesigning it or not. And then I'm going to use my Barely Art glue to adhere my card panels down to my base. And you can see that cotton candy piece is about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my white base. Again, I eyeball everything. I'm really bad for that. I don't measure things very often. It just kind of, I think that it gives you a more organic look, and it kind of ends up looking a bit more handmade and not kind of mass produced. Not that mass produced cards are bad, it's just that when I make a card I want it to be for an individual, so I kind of tried to make sure it looks like it's for an individual, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And I brought in some thin Dries foam strips, and this is my secret to it. I like to adhere it down on the strip and then trim it on the strips so that I get a piece that's exactly the length of my little label in this case, and then that gives it some dimension, so these sentiments are actually sitting up with the little pockets. So I thought that was really neat. And then I kind of have to finagle it a little bit and shift it around until I'm happy with how it looks. And because I can never leave anything unshiny, I had to bring in some Pink Fresh Glacier jewels, and I kind of scattered them across. It's just to add a little bit more white, although in the end they kind of match the Kraft pretty well, which was not my intention. However, it looks neat, so I'll go with it. And I had to bring in some Spectrum Noir glitter pen. This is just a clear glitter pen, and I'm going to put it over top of all of the hearts to make them exceptionally shiny, because at this point, I mean, why not? We're already there. Might as well have everything be as shiny as humanly possible, because it makes me happy, and that is the point of this whole craft. So I'm going to cover all of the hearts with my glitter pen, and then I'm going to hold it up in all of its glory so you can check it out as everything's dry, and you can see the kind of shaking pocket when I hold it up here in a second. So that is the video I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think. Do you guys use your older sets, or do you kind of like to get the new ones? I mean, it's hard not to get excited about new product. I know Tim Holtz has a new stamp release in June, and I'm ridiculously excited, so I can't wait to see what he brings out. But that is the card I have. I'd love if you'd leave me a comment, leave me a like, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.